Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Sean O'Meara. I'm a health and performance optimizing physician from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'd like to talk to you about two important biomarkers that you want to be aware of inside your body to optimize your health and to eradicate disease. But before I do that, I'd like to share with you why I'm a little bit different from other physicians. After studying a lot of biomarkers, I decided that what's really important to optimize people is to give them markers and metrics that they can follow to improve themselves without going through physicians. I have figured out that one of the big reasons people don't get better is because they're dependent upon a system that is not telling them what they really need to do to improve. So I want to change that. What works really well is U.S. commerce. Our country has the highest economy in the world because our companies outperform. One of the things they do is they have KPI, key performance indicators, that allow them to get better. They study what they got to do to get better and they improve their companies. Why don't we do that when it comes to the body? If we really are studying the right things, why are we getting worse? Why do we have more disease? Because we're studying things that the system tells you to study that makes them money instead improves your bottom health. So I'm completely changing things. I'm following complete natural biomarkers that don't cost you money. You can do it in your home, that you can follow yourself. So those biomarkers are freely available to you to make yourself better and to improve your health. So the two things I want to talk to you about in this video that you need to be aware of is visceral fat, which is associated, if not causal, for all forms of chronic disease. I mean, you don't want any of this stuff inside your body. It's like kryptonite. If I was to ask you one thing you want to get in your body, most of you would say get rid of or reduce in your body. Most of you would say, well, my weight, my excess fat, my thinning hair, my varicose veins, or with something along those lines. But what you really want to get rid of is visceral fat. You started to see a little bit more about this on the internet. It's the deep belly fat. But one of the reasons why I think that the healthcare system doesn't tell you about it is, one, they don't know how to get rid of it, and two, when they get rid of it, you're going to get healthy and you're going to stop making them money. So that's the conflict of interest. So follow me to learn about visceral fat. And its wicked twin that I'm going to tell you about, its evil twin, is sarcopenia. And all the other biomarkers, I'm going to do a whole series of content videos on free biomarkers you can follow to optimize yourself without having to be dependent upon a healthcare system that has a conflict of just making money off treating your disease. So first one is visceral fat. What is it? I'm going to show you this image, okay? So I studied this biomarker for the past really 7 years, and we scan people through the level they're at in right here, and we measure, you get an image, this what it looks like by an MRI, and we track the visceral fat. In an MRI image, fat shows up as white, the dark stuff is either muscle or organ, your intestines. So all this white stuff is deep visceral fat. This is the kryptonite inside your body you want to get rid of. You want none of it. I see these things on the ads like DEXA scan, like normal levels. Let me tell you, there's no normal level. It's disease. You want to get rid of that. Don't accept it as normal. Normal is what you have for other things, but not visceral fat. Visceral fat you want to get rid of. So the visceral fat, we painted it red here, and it's yellow. So we've studied this for over 8 years. We scanned over 4,000 patients. We took those results showing the eradication of chronic disease to the National Science Foundation. We got a grant, $1.2 million grant to reverse chronic disease and to continue our work. So nobody else has ever achieved this. So pay attention. This is all for you. It's your taxpayer money coming through. The National Science Foundation allowed us to do this. So I'm sharing it back because what we figured out. So let me show you the next image. Is a series of MRI scans through the abdomen of a guy who is 68 years old, and he had this visceral fat in this particular image here, and oops, let me turn it around here. Sorry, in this particular image here, he had
visceral fat, measured in this particular image here of 5.6 pounds in this first image. And what he did was, he only did one thing. He cut out processed foods, carbohydrates. Now watch what happens. You might see processed foods being coming in, you can see maybe your weight change, but look at the elimination of visceral fat. This is 2 weeks. He goes from here to here. Now you don't need to go to medical school to see that he has lost a considerable amount of visceral fat in that image just from cutting out processed foods. But this continues to go on. 35 weeks later, his whole shape has changed. He goes from looking like sort of like a blob to looking more like a college athlete. Now, what's interesting is he only did that one thing, cut out processed foods, processed carbohydrates. He did not exercise 1 minute. If you think you're going to go from here to here through exercise, I'm going to tell you, it is not going to probably happen. And if you do, it's going to take such a considerable effort, it's not worth doing. You got to get control of your diet. You got to eliminate processed foods, eliminate processed carbohydrates from your diet to get these kind of results. But the system doesn't want you to know that. I want to share this image with you so you're aware of it. Cut out processed foods right away. Now, take a look at the second image here. These are my own image of visceral fat, a tiny bit of visceral fat. This is 6 years ago. I've lost a lot more visceral fat since then, but this is my first image when I took it with my research partner, Dr. CJ, and this was his first image. We both have 32-inch waists in these particular images, but the difference is, and I want to point out, is look how much more visceral fat poor Dr. CJ had. Now today he's got a lot less, but he's got more than I do here because he would eat a lot of rice. He was Chinese, born in China, accustomed to eating a lot of China. China, you can get away with eating that because the microbiome is different there. In the United States, he acquired bad microbes, and his visceral fat accumulated from the diet that he was accustomed to eating in China. So he stopped eating rice, and his visceral fat went away. But the comparison is between him and I, he has a lot more visceral fat than I do. And look at this muscle on the side here. These are the oblique and transverse muscles on the side. My muscle is very big and dark because I exercise. Dr. CJ exercised his brain more than his body, and so he didn't exercise as much. But because he had more visceral fat and he had a higher carbohydrate diet, even fat deposits in the muscle. See right there? That's intramuscular deposition of fat, and mine was more lean. So I point that out that we could see in visceral fat. Now, I'll show you what this looks like in a picture of tissue. Now, this image cost me $56, so pay attention to this. I had to buy these 2 steaks. This one's 100% grass-fed, and this one was corn-fed, grain-fed, a lot. And this one makes the farmer, the rancher, a lot of money. This one doesn't make as much because the cow is not as heavy when it steps on the scale, and it's per pound that they're paid. So it's not how healthy that meat is, it's how much is when you go in that grocery store. Unfortunately, you're looking for deals, not looking for the healthiest meat, unfortunately. So, but this is a cow that's eating what it's supposed to eat, grass. And this is a cow that's eating what it shouldn't eat, grains and carbohydrates. And this is what happens to you when you eat food that you're not supposed to eat. So cut out those processed carbohydrates and you'll do a lot better. Now here's an image of a fellow who's got terrible amount of visceral fat, a huge amount of visceral fat. So that's how bad it can happen if you start eating a lot of processed foods, processed carbohydrates. You can just become mostly visceral fat. Now, what's interesting is this guy, he has very little subcutaneous fat. So he'd pinch his abdomen, and he thought he was in great shape because he couldn't pinch much fat. But boy, did he have an eye-opening experience when he came in and had that scan and realized how much visceral fat he has. And here's a guy who has like very little visceral fat. This is not visceral fat here. This is perinephric fat, retroperitoneal, not in the abdomen. His visceral fat is this tiny bit here, but look at those wonderful muscles. Super, super big core. That's your core right there. This guy was massive, super healthy. So I'm going to show you the wicked twin of visceral fat is sarcopenia. Okay, this is an image of myself when I finally got it together and understood, really I started out 10 years ago, 12 years ago in low carb, high fat, and then I went paleo, and then I went from paleo to keto, and from keto, finally, even lower carbohydrates in keto. I went to 0 carbohydrates in carnivore. So I'm eating the carnivore diet right now, which I'm an advocate of. Everybody trying and giving it a trial for 2 to 3 months, at least see what happens to you. But by my own experience and many of my clients, I get to go carbohydrates. The more carbohydrates you eliminate, the better off you become. So here's my own image from about 4 years ago, and then in 3 years difference, I go from here to here. Now, what's important is sarcopenia. See that abdomen sticking out there? That abdomen is sticking out because my muscle tones, the tones of my muscle, can no longer function to keep my gut in. My enteric tract, my intestinal tract is pushing out, and the muscles cannot contain it. So I go from here to this image here by cutting out more processed carbohydrates. It allowed more visceral fat to be eliminated, and my performance, the tonicity of my muscles considerably improved. You can see the tone of my muscles here are better than my lunch lady arms here. I actually improved. I got more hair on my legs, more hair on my arms, more hair on my abdomen, and my veins in my hands improved. Everything improved by cutting out those carbohydrates and going lower. So, but the key is the sarcopenia. My posture improved. The muscles literally held my skeleton up better. So I want to show you how you can track visceral fat and sarcopenia. So to be able to do this, here's the simple test, okay? What you want to be able to do is look at what's going on in your gut. And we're going to exploit the differences between visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat causes disease, kills you, ruins your life, and decreases your productivity. Subcutaneous fat is not associated with those things. It's just like extra energy around your body. It may suggest that you're eating too much in excess of your metabolic demands, but it's not contributory or causal associated with chronic disease, morbidity or mortality, or basically ruin your life in the way visceral fat is. So I take off my shirt to be able to demonstrate this. And this is my normal body. I've not worked out. I think it's important. All these people go on the internet, show off their big muscles after they work out. You want to look good all the time at baseline. You want to have good tonicity, good posture to your body all the time, not just like when you work out or you're standing tall and looking good. You want to have at baseline good postural tone, good tonicity to your muscles. So I'm going to demonstrate a difference between visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. So one difference is in visceral fat is visceral fat will stick up. So if you got visceral fat, a big, a lot of fat around your body, is it visceral fat or subcutaneous fat? If when you stand up, you can't tell, but when you lay down, if that belly is sticking straight up like Mount Fuji, then you've got visceral fat. But if that fat falls to the side, you've got subcutaneous fat. That's not as bad. Women typically have a lot of subcutaneous fat. They may have a lot of abdominal girth, big, wide, waistline. But when they lay down, that subcutaneous fat goes to the side. But once they reach menopause, then they start accumulating visceral fat. Us guys, males, we develop visceral fat. So we get these bellies that stick up when we lay down. So here's a real simple way to measure your visceral fat. You can take this. I just take rulers. I put a board across the top, a board here, and I track where my number is. And this shows that my visceral fat is about 6 inches, okay? So you can track that. The other thing you could do is just put the ruler against the wall. And you can put a ruler against the wall and put a board across that and see where it is on your abdomen, okay? So you track your visceral fat, absolutely free. Now, it's not so much where you are at a particular number, it's where it trends over a period of time. In other words, maybe your belly sticks way up. You want to track to make sure it's going away as you lay down. Track the number to make sure it's getting smaller. So that's a real good way to do it. Now, check this out. Biologically, you've got software in your brain that tells you visceral fat is bad. So I'm going to show you what will happen over a period of time if we fast track forward me eating a bunch of bad carbohydrates and start eating tasty food. Watch what happens. So my abdomen will go like this. Okay, that's not a good look. Now, many of you are going to look like this, big belly sticking up, but check this out. As you eliminate those carbohydrates, go on a carnivore diet, start eating healthy, and some high intensity exercise, that visceral fat will go away. Now check this out. Bad, and now good. So you know that's what you want to do. You want to see that visceral fat going down. Visceral fat sticks up, subcutaneous falls to the side. Now, what does sarcopenia look like? I told you if you stand up, your belly sticks out when you're standing up. Sarcopenia has another interesting kind of look. If you lay down and you're a skinny guy, you're skinny fat, here's what it's going to look like, scaphoid. So I'm going to suck my abdomen in to kind of look like this, but this is what it looks like. Kind of like this. Your belly just falls down. If you got a belly and you lay like this, naturally, don't make any tone. This is your natural posture. You got sarcopenia. And when you stand up, your belly's going to stick out. And so the other, that's because you want to have nice tone. 18-year-old girls and guys, teenagers, some young 20-year-olds, they're going to have an abdomen that's completely flat like this. Fortunately, mine is in the natural positions like this, what you want. You want it basically flat and one plane like this, okay? If it's sagging down, it's because your muscle, tone of your muscle, the way it holds to the bone, is not firing, and you've lost that tonicity. The other way that looks is when you go like this in your abdomen, sarcopenia, your stomach will hang down because your guts can't hold it in anymore. So you can go like this, get someone to take a picture of you, or just do it yourself with your little cell phone, set it up with a timer, and you track if your abdomen is hanging down. You don't want that. So I figured this out because really healthy, unhealthy people, I could feel all the way down. I could feel their colon go all the way down. I could feel their abdominal aorta. I could feel their appendix and stuff real easily. But you get these super healthy athletes, teenagers, young people, and I'd have to say, come on, relax your abdomen. And I am. Well, it's because their tone is so tight in their abdomen, those muscles don't really allow us to probe with our fingers as physicians to examine the abdomen. So you want a nice tight abdomen. You want that nice tight posture. You want your muscles basically, to have nice tone to your muscles. So you don't have sagging with your pectoralis majors. You don't have sagging with your arms. You don't have sagging with your triceps and your biceps. You want to have that good tone. So sarcopenia is muscle wasting. And visceral fat, those are twins. They go together. Visceral fat is always associated and causal, in my opinion, I think we'll be able to show that, to cause sarcopenia and many other diseases. So get rid of your visceral fat. You're going to improve your tonicity. I'm 57 years old. And I compared to other 57-year-olds, I think my tone is doing better than most people. So the two things I want you to be aware of in this video is visceral fat. It's like kryptonite. You want to get rid of it. How do you get rid of it? First and foremostly, cut out processed carbohydrates. You got to get dietary control with it. I recommend going on a zero carbohydrate diet, at least for a while. The most perfect form of elimination diet is the carnivore diet, and then do fasting. You want to consider doing 1 meal a day, and consider doing some extended fasting, and then you want to do some high intensity exercise. I recommend sprinting. This guy with the best abdominal exam I've ever seen, out of 4,000 people, over 4,000 people that we scanned, he was a sprinter, an Olympic sprinter. So you want to do some high intensity exercise. Sprinting is the perfect form. And then some high intensity resistance training, lifting weights. I like gym rings. I also like doing parallel bars. I think they're really good. Climbing trees. you want to do some good body weight exercise. And then you want to optimize a few things. You want to optimize your microbiome, and I'll do a video series on that. You want to optimize your oxytocin nitric oxide. These are things I regularly tweet about and put on social media. And I'll do individual videos on all of these things interventions do. But the key things you want to do is cut out processed foods and do some high intensity exercise. Make sure you're sleeping good, get outside, get some sunshine. And if you want to learn more about me, you can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Sean O'Mara, DrSeanomara. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm also on YouTube, my own channel, Dr. Sean O'Mara. And I'm on a podcast with my partner, Eric Jungles, my business partner, Eric Jungles, at the Health and Wealth Optimization Podcast and YouTube channel. Well, I hope you like this video. Give it a like if you like it. And as always, leave me some comments. Give me some questions. I'd like your feedback. And if you're interested in working with me to optimize yourself, you can direct message me and get a hold of me on my website, Medcon Wellness, MEDCON Wellness, WELLNESS.com, or through my social media, Twitter and Instagram. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.